Hello EFD squad and welcome back to our top 10s. Today we're doing 10 narrow transfer escapes. Let's kick it off. 10. Gareth Barry. Back in 2008, Liverpool looked close to breaking an almost 2-decade-long title duck. The Reds had been to 2 Champions League finals in the previous 3 years, winning 1, and boasted a midfield of Steven Gerrard, Javier Mascherano and Xabi Alonso, their best of the Premier League era. But coach Rafa Benitez wanted to change things up. The FA were due to introduce homegrown quotas, and Alonso's season had been disrupted by injury, leading the coach to consider moving his countryman on so he could bring in Villa's Gareth Barry. Juventus and Arsenal were both interested in Alonso, and a deal to take the Spaniard to London was almost agreed until Barry pulled the plug on his switch to Anfield at the last minute, saying Benitez wanted me to play left back, left midfield and centre midfield. He went on to add, "That's what I'd done at Villa, it wasn't for me anymore," and that kept Alonso on Merseyside, and Liverpool subsequently produced their best season in the Premier League era, finishing second with 86 points, a tally they'd take a decade to eclipse. However, there was a sting in the tail. The club's willingness to part with him tainted Alonso's view of Liverpool, and when Real Madrid showed an interest the following season, he told the gaffer he wanted to move on. The pursuit of Gareth Barry took some time for me to accept, and, in all honesty, it changed the course of my future, Alonso said, going on to the Bernabeu, where he'd win the league and Champions League. Meanwhile, Liverpool, having finished in the top 4 years running with Alonso, spent 4 years out of the UCL places without their talismanic Spaniard. Before we move on, if you're not part of the EFD squad, then we'd love to have you. Just click the subscribe button up there as well as the notification bell so you never miss a Euro Football Daily video. But without further ado, let's move on. 9. Andrea Belotti. Fans may not like it when clubs sell their best player, but sometimes it's the smart move. In 2017, Andrea Belotti was 23 and coming off a spectacular campaign, having scored 26 goals and assisting 7 in Serie A, making him involved in 7 more goals than Mo Salah. However, 10 of his strikes came from set pieces and penalties, not exactly evidence of special movement or finishing, while expected goals put his total predicted output around 21 goals and assists, still excellent, but not necessarily good enough to lead the line for a super club. That didn't deter Manchester United from exploring paying the Italians buyout clause set at an eye-watering €100 million. The Old Trafford outfit had squeezed 28 goals in all competitions out of Zlatan the previous season, the same number as Ronaldo managed in his first year at Juventus. But with the big Swede due to turn 36, they wisely were looking for a new number 9. Less wisely, they focused on the Torino striker, only deciding against pursuing the deal once the Granata demanded the full release fee, and in the end ended up securing Romelu Lukaku for a full €15 million less. While Lukaku has been considered a flop by many after 28 league goals in 2 seasons, Belotti's managed 25 in the same period, with 5 of those coming from the spot. 8. Vicente Rodríguez. Now all but forgotten outside of Valencia, Vicente Rodríguez was once a tricky left winger who spent almost his entire career in the Spanish city where he was born. Coming through the ranks at Levante, he moved to Los Che in 2000 at 19 years old, turning down moves to Arsenal and Real Madrid as he broke into the national setup the following season. In his first year, he helped Valencia reach a 2nd consecutive Champions League final, before winning La Liga the next campaign. 2 seasons on, he was firmly established as one of the best in the division, earning a 2nd domestic title and UEFA Cup, and scoring 12 goals in league play to prompt Real to come back to the negotiating table. This time, Rodríguez was keen on the switch, but Valencia, who had lost coach Rafa Benitez that summer, refused to sanction it, and Rodríguez stayed at the Mestalla. Sadly, the next 3 years were ruined by a sequence of ankle injuries, and the player was fined by the club when he publicly criticised the team's doctor for his continued fitness woes. By the time Rodríguez rediscovered his health, a young Juan Mata was competing for his spot, and the Wideman retired in 2014 at the age of 33, having never made over 30 league appearances in a single season after Real's offer. 7. Olivier Giroud. Though perhaps underrated during his 5.5-year spell with Arsenal, Olivier Giroud was never regarded as a forward who could have aimed higher, but that didn't stop Bayern Munich taking a hard look at the striker before he arrived at the Emirates. And it wasn't altogether ridiculous. Giroud finished as Ligue 1's top goal scorer in the 2011-12 season as Montpellier won the title, netting 21 and assisting 9 in 36 appearances. That led the German Giants to take an interest, with Giroud revealing, "My agent spoke to them and it was approved by the people at Bayern." He also added they wanted to wait for the Euros, and Mandzukic had a great Euros. The Croatian was indeed impressive at the tournament, scoring 3 and finishing as joint top goal scorer, arriving in Bavaria for €13 million, while Giroud linked up with Arsene Wenger for roughly the same fee. A year later, Mandzukic was a treble winner and had scored in a Champions League final, though the Frenchman scored just 4 fewer than the former Wolfsburg man in domestic play that campaign. In fact, over the next 4 seasons, Mandzukic would score 81 in all competitions, while Giroud would hit 82. But while Giroud was a solid point man and excellent in the air, Mandzukic was a tireless runner off the ball and even turned Bayern a €9 million profit when he left for Atletico Madrid. Overall, the club ended up making the right choice. 6. Michu. The later Arsene Wenger years saw the Gunners try every cost-cutting measure as they tried to stay competitive, but few were more desperate than their play for Swansea's Michu in 2013. The Spaniard had enjoyed a spectacular first season in Wales, arriving for £2 million from Rayo Vallecano, where he'd scored 15 league goals, and going 3 better in his maiden campaign with the Swans, netting 18 and assisting 2 as the Minnows finished 9th, winning the League Cup in the process, the club's first major trophy. In that campaign, Michu faced Arsenal 3 times in the league and FA Cup, and scored 3 times, prompting Wenger to give up on trying to defend against the 27-year-old and bring him to the North London instead, reportedly offering close to £20 million for the forward. However, Swansea held out for £25 million, which was then a small fortune, and Arsenal turned their attentions to Higuain, then Suarez, and eventually Mesut Ozil. And unsurprisingly, it was the Welsh outfit who lived to regret that decision, with injuries limiting Michu to under half the number of appearances the following campaign, with just 15 starts in the Prem and 4 goal involvements during that time. His poor fitness robbed the player of whatever talent he had, and in the end, Swansea cancelled his contract in 2015, 2 years after Arsenal's offer. Instead of playing European football at the Emirates, Michu's next permanent club was Langreo in the Spanish 4th tier, where he retired in 2017 at just 31. 5. Lee Bowyer. Time hasn't been kind to Lee Bowyer's footballing reputation, but back in 2002, the midfielder was a bright star in English football. Then 25, he'd been a key component in a brilliant Leeds team which had reached the Champions League semi-final a year prior, scoring 9 goals in the Prem and had been named the club's player of the season, featuring in every single midfield role. However, he'd spent much of the following campaign on trial for grievous bodily harm, alongside teammate and future Real Madrid player Jonathan Woodgate. Unfortunately, this wasn't the end of his criminal behaviour, with the one-cap England international also fined £4,500 in 1996 after vandalising a McDonald's and racially abusing a staff member. But that didn't put off Liverpool boss Gerard Houllier, who was willing to meet the £9 million asking price, and Liverpool brought the player's agent to Melwood for negotiations. But both Bowyer and his representative seemed ungrateful for the opportunity and dragged their heels in contract talks, prompting Houllier to pull the deal with an announcement just hours away. Leeds' financial issues, not helped by their generous agreement to pay for Bowyer's legal fees, saw the Londoner leave the following January for West Ham, where fans protested the signing due to his previous racist behaviour. Ankle injuries resulted in just 11 appearances for the Irons, and Bowyer went on to Newcastle, where he earned eternal fame for fighting his own teammate Kieran Dyer. 4. Leandro Damião. In 2013, Spurs were flush with cash after selling Gareth Bale to Real Madrid, and coach Andrea Belotti was keen to bolster his attacking lineup with a pair of 24-year-old Brazilians, Willian, then at Shakhtar Donetsk, and Leandro Damião, a centre-forward leading the line at Internacional. At the time, Damião was the safe bet, with 17 international caps to Willian's 4, and 75 goals in his previous 3 campaigns, as well as a Copa Libertadores medal. Spurs were in dire need of attacking reinforcements too, with the departure of Bale leaving Jermaine Defoe as their top goal scorer from the previous year on just 11. The Lily Whites had previously tried to sign Damião in 2011, and after he finished the Olympics as top goal scorer and with a silver medal, they went in for him again, reportedly having a £15 million offer for the striker rejected by Internacional, who was said to be holding out for a then club record of £25 million. The price tag eventually led the North London side to look elsewhere, slapping down the same amount for a proven goal scorer in Roberto Soldado, who had scored 16 goals in 2 years with Spurs, having netted nearly 60 the previous 2. However, that was still probably a better investment than Damião, who bounced around Brazil with Santos, Cruzeiro, Flamengo and Internacional again, only once hitting 10 goals in the league. Now 29, he's plying his trade in Japan. 3. Willian. Chelsea have made some amazing sales in recent years. 60 million euros for an unwanted Oscar, 66 million euros for Diego Costa with one hamstring. The income stream for the Blues' peripheral players has been remarkable. But the side missed out on a record sale in 2018 when they turned down a bumper 70 million euros for Brazilian wide man Willian, who was then closing in on his 30th birthday. Willian was a wanted man that summer, having delivered 13 goals and assists in 1,800 minutes the previous campaign. First, Manchester United made a play for him, with Jose Mourinho reportedly willing to swap Anthony Martial for the veteran. Then Barca came in with multiple bids, but were again rebuffed. And though Willian was involved in just 5 league goals over the first half of the season, the Blaugrana returned for him in January 2019, this time bidding over 50 million euros plus Malcolm. Chelsea said no and got another 4 goal contributions out of their winger, meaning he ended the season with 1 fewer than Arturo Vidal managed in midfield at the Camp Nou. However, common sense has rarely prevailed in the north of Spain, and in the summer of 2019, Barca came back yet again, offering over 35 million euros. This was despite 8 of the 18 players in their squad to have played over 500 league minutes in 18-19, being over 30. Perhaps thankfully, Chelsea's transfer ban put paid to their hopes of finally adding the former Shakhtar man to their ranks. And with his contract ending in 2020, the Blues are likely to be forced into handing him a bumper 2-year deal just to avoid losing him for nothing. Great business all round. 2. Hal Robson-Kanu. The leap from Reading to Atletico Madrid is a new one for us, but it was briefly the most talked about transfer route in Europe back in 2016, when Hal Robson-Kanu was tipped for a switch to Diego Simeone's outfit. Though born in London, Robson-Kanu was representing Wales at that summer's Euros, having left the Royals on a free transfer and scored 2 goals as the Dragons reached the semi-finals. The second of those was a brilliant strike against Belgium, later nominated for the Puskas Award, and the 27-year-old was soon linked to Swansea and Hull before rumours grew of interest from Saudi Arabia and China, with a 100k a week contract reportedly on the table. But it was to get weirder still as Sevilla and Atletico Madrid came calling, sending representatives to the UK to discuss a potential switch with the Welshman's agent. More plausibly, HRK ended up joining West Brom, where he ended up scoring 3 goals in his first year, 2 in his second and 4 in his third. Hardly form worthy of a spot at 3-time Champions League finalist Atletico Madrid. It was enough though for him to earn a championship contract lasting until he's 31. Probably best that he remains in the second tier. 1. Thomas Lemar. While some clubs make the wrong decisions, Arsenal's often make the right ones too late. They decided not to offer Aaron Ramsey a big contract, but only once he was able to leave on a free. They then brought in Henrik Mkhitaryan, but only once he was 29 and sapped of his powers by Manchester United. And they decided to sell Alexis Sanchez in the last days of the 28 summer transfer window, when the Chilean only had 1 year left on his deal. Having played hardball with suited Manchester City all summer, the Gunners changed tack as the window wound down, accepting an offer of £60 million for Sanchez. But that left Arsene Wenger needing a new star attacker, and in desperation, he made the wrong decision, lodging a shocking £90 million bid for Monaco's Thomas Lemar. The Frenchman had been involved in 19 league goals the previous year, and at 21, it seemed like a smart investment. However, his expected goals put his output closer to 15, suggesting he'd fall back, and after rejecting the switch to North London, his production plummeted from roughly a goal contribution every other game to 1 every 3. Hardly enough to push Arsenal back into the Champions League spots. That didn't deter Atletico Madrid though, who spent £63 million on Lemar a year later, hoping he could supplement an attack too reliant on Antoine Griezmann. And while the wideman worked hard, winning possession 3 times a game and completing 2.5 dribbles per 90, he failed to shine on the offensive side, getting involved in just 6 goals in 31 appearances. Still only 23, there remains plenty of time for Lemar to turn into a superstar. But the famously cash-strapped Gunners must be thankful they didn't fork out a fee, which would have made him the 3rd most expensive player of all time, especially as they picked up Aubameyang for 2/3 of that price 5 months later. So that was 10 narrow transfer escapes, but who are you glad your club missed out on? Let us know in the comments below. And maybe click one of these videos on screen and continue your Euro Football Daily sesh. Much appreciated. Bye.